summarize dishonest money, unearned fraudulent money, not money in the sense that you think of money like you have to provide a product or service if you want money, and other people do too. They simply create the money out of thin air. And then worse than the power that would go with being able to simply create money out of thin air and spend it into existence, they could buy up whatever they wanted. Worse than that, they loan it into existence. So they create this inescapable crushing debt. And with that, they expand their power and gain control. And the goal is, as you already know, to establish a one world monetary system and use that to create their global technocracy utopia. How's that for a mouthful?
No, I'm just sitting back listening here. Go over why it's important for people to read this book. Even if you think you know about the Federal Reserve, it's good to really refresh yourself on it, to really understand this is the problem, this is the enemy, this is where all the globalist power comes from, not just here but worldwide. And then it's important to warn others, or they're going to think, oh, it's that darn Obama, or it's that darn, Bush or Romney or whoever, instead of, hey, that's just rearranging chairs on the Titanic.
Exactly. I'll go back to the warfare analogy. What do you do when you're engaged in war? What is one of the first things that you want to do? You want to cut the supply lines. And this is the supply line. This is the inexhaustible source of financing. Any organization or individual, if they want to do something, has to have the money to do it. And there are limits to how much money the government can take through taxation. So this provides a covert means for financing. It's still taxation. It's still the exact same thing. If you have $10,000 and the government takes $3,000 of your money, it's reduced your purchasing power by 30%. But the same thing happens if you have $10,000 and the government, through an inflationary policy, reduces the purchasing power of your money by 30%. It's the same thing. The only difference is most people are unaware of what's going on or what's happening. They can't quite put their finger on it. And this really is the root of our problem. All of these things that the government is doing. And again, you've done such an excellent job of covering these things, from injecting pregnant women with plutonium and just every horribly corrupt, overtly criminal thing that the government engages in. It has to have money to do these things. And the Federal Reserve System is supplying these people this endless supply of money at our expense. And they don't care what the money is for, because ultimately, in the end, it's about weakening national sovereignty, creating enormous debt, weakening national sovereignty, and then eventually, once that's been achieved, when they finally do destroy the dollar and bring the United States to its knees financially, they will be able to sell this, one world currency, one world global system that they've been working on for 100 years now.
Well, you're right. Now, Joe, there's other ways they engage in this as well. And one of the big ones is they'll give their own private banks the money at 0% interest and then loan it back to us. Or worse, they'll create all these other financial derivatives, financial counterfeits, outside of the fractional reserve banking system they control, where for every dollar they have in there, they loan out 10 or more. They then threaten to bring down the whole system because they've created fraud, have the media they own never report that, hold everyone hostage, and then get bailed out. But because we bail them out, we're then in debt to them. So yeah, it's just so over-the-top ridiculous that people can't seem to get it, because it's so ridiculous.
It's pretty brazen and sophisticated. And I guess if you want to call it this, I don't really consider it genius, but it's a very ingenious system for transferring wealth and power away from the people who have rightfully earned it into the pockets of the people who have created this predatory system.
And it's worse than that. In fact, the guys can just search engine this. Just search engine, Ben Bernanke says raise taxes, or European Central Bank says raise taxes. They're always saying raise taxes because they get the money in bailouts and funding. They run the government. That's why they have Warren Buffett, who's basically exempt from taxes, going, oh, I don't pay much. And then his plan is raise middle-class taxes, not his own. I mean, it's these rich pigs ripping us off, running the government. They're not capitalist. And they blame capitalism for what they've done when it's just insider fraud. And then they want to tax me and my neighbors, and blue-collar workers are having their taxes raised. I mean, it's so diabolical. It's so parasitic. It's so ridiculous. And I want the con to end. It's so obvious. If we can just educate people, it's over. And as Zbigniew Brzezinski said last year, and again in his new book that came out 2 months ago, I refused to buy it, but at the bookstore I did go to the first chapter. It's on that. He wrote 5 points that face the global elite. And the first one is that the people are waking up to us, not our puppets. So Hillary said they're losing the info war. So I'm telling you, folks, this is coffin nails. This is a stake in the vampire's heart. But we're going to have to use it on them. You know, that's why your book is so important. And a lot of these books on the Federal Reserve are 500 pages long and very technical. And I don't want to say yours is very well written, and it's technical as well, but it's simple. It's simple, and that's why I also promote American Dream, that we sell at a very low price at Infowars.com, because it's a 30-minute film, cartoon style, that anybody will watch about the Federal Reserve. I think this complements it very, very well.
Well, I appreciate that. That was the whole point of writing this book, is that I just could not find anything. It wasn't like I really wanted to tackle this topic. It's a really ugly, dry topic, but I tried the best I could to make it as entertaining and simple to understand as I could. And based on the feedback to this point, it's received good feedback from people who understand it, and most importantly, from the people who had no idea how it operates, how the system's being used against them. That was really the target audience. But again, people who do understand it, it's good. You know, I lay out all these examples of how they're transferring the wealth, how they benefit from the system.
No, you've got it all in there. But let me just add this. I should have said, too, you've had a lot of really successful things you were doing that you gave up to do this. Joe Plummer is an entrepreneur, civic-minded writer. In '98, he published StopDrinking.com, now located at HowToStopDrinking.org, to counter the commonly accepted disease theory of alcohol and drug addiction. In 2003, he sold his successful consumer watchdog site, FairBet.org, I remember that site, and began focusing full-time on corruption in government. In 2004, he published StopTheLie.com to expose government abuse and propaganda. In 2009, after 6 years of research, he published Dishonest Money, Financing the Road to Ruin. Dishonest Money explains how the elite are using our fraudulent monetary system to weaken the United States and usher in an unelected, unaccountable world government. The book has received great reviews. And again, this is it. It's either us or them. It's not just like we have foreign con artist bankers that took over. They happen to be eugenicists on top of it. They happen to be really nasty, and they've taken the world over by fraud, and now they don't want us here. I mean, you find out they're the ones financing the anti-family, the garbage in the vaccines, the UN, the land grabs. It's them. They're the bad guys. They're the bad guys. What did you think of this big Goldman Sachs exec quitting and saying, we're trying to hurt our customers, we call them scum, we call them Muppets, this is a criminal group?
It's good. It's interesting that you brought up all that other stuff, because I'm covering all that in my next book, the eugenicist angle and a lot of other things. And I'm going a step further. With Dishonest Money, I try to take what is a fairly intimidating topic to most people and really reduce it to the most simple form. And when you do that, it really isn't that complicated. So I want to encourage people, please, if nothing else, to learn about the Federal Reserve System, because this really is, like I said, this is the funding mechanism that we do not currently control, and we can yell and scream and raise our fists about what they're doing, but until we can cut off the money, they're going to keep doing whatever they want. If they can keep confiscating the money from us via inflation and through, to a lesser degree, even though people don't realize that, through the taxation system, we're going to have real problems. But in the next book, I took the same concept of trying to reach out past the choir, and I wrote this is factual fiction, and we haven't talked about this, but I think you'll like the lead character's name is Alex, and his last name is Watson, And yes, you better believe that's a hat tip to you, yourself, and of course, Paul, for all the work they've been doing.
Oh, that's exciting. I can't wait to read that. And listen, good, smart folks like you writing books and doing this, it makes us all safer. We need there to be hundreds of thousands of Alex Joneses and Paul Watsons, and they're there. They're people like Joe Plummer. I mean, you guys are really kicking some hind end. I want to talk a little bit more about some of the new developments in the Federal Reserve and how its sister group is taking over Europe right now with Joe Plummer. The book, Dishonest Money, Financing the Road to Ruin. And I know all the other radio shows listen to my show. Hope you get Joe on because his book needs to get out there to people. And if you got friends and family that don't get it, this is a great book for people to understand why they're losing their jobs, why money doesn't go as far, why all this is happening. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Mistake. The system is coming after our free speech. They're going after Limbaugh, whether you love him or hate him. The point is they're trying to target him as they can bring down the big guy. The system sees talk radio as alternative because you can call into it, and it's long form. And the system said they want to shut down talk radio. They've had like 10 different senators the last 3 years say that. We need to understand that's happening. Also, the system wants to gear up new wars. Here's a really creepy article, Associated Press. NYPD says Iran has conducted surveillance in New York City ahead of, quote, staging attacks. Pray that there's not a false flag to get the Iran war going. Wow, if you missed that Lyndon LaRouche interview earlier, it'll re-air in the audio streams and on stations that re-air the show. It was amazing. All this is going on. Again, the book is Dishonest Money, Financing the Road to Ruin. Joseph Plummer, excellent book to expose how these globalists have done this to us. Because if you don't fix this, you know, they're trying to totally set up an authoritarian system to secure their ill-gotten gains. And they openly say they want to reduce our numbers because they've stolen everything. They don't want us around. These are really nasty people. And again, I just keep going back to that. Other points, Joe, you want to make about the book that you think are important?
I think we've covered most of it. Just basically, I want people to learn how this system is being used against them so that when they create the inevitable crisis that they're trying to create, there will be greater resistance and the ability to, you know, lay the foundation for what will replace what they've created. It's great if people can go out and write books or do documentaries or whatever. You know, all of these things are very useful, but it's the most important thing for people to do is to simply gain an awareness of what's going on, because they cannot operate their scam if people understand what's going on. And it really is, their entire system is based on deception, theft, and violence. And deception really being the primary element that it's all built on. So once people start to understand any scam, it doesn't matter what it is. If it's a phone scam where somebody calls and says, hey, guess what? You just want a brand new Ford F-150. All you need to do is give us your banking information so we can, you know, get the shipping fees and send it to you. People will fall for that until maybe they realize, oh, wow, that's a scam. And then they won't fall for it anymore. As long as everybody's aware of that's a particular scam, they won't fall for it. Same kind of concept with all of these other things that they're doing. The genetically modified food that they're using to poison us with, the fluoride that they're dumping in the water. All of these things, to the extent that people gain awareness of what's actually going on and hear the other side of the story, it weakens them.
Bisphenol A now is being pulled everywhere. Exactly. When we take action, we win. But if we just feel powerless and give up, it's over. Can't wait for your new book to come out, Dishonest Money, Financing the Road to Ruin, available at Infowars.com. Thank you so much for the time today, Joe.
It's great to be with you, Alex. If I say one thing real quick, I hope that people will purchase the book from you. That's because this is how, as you've said, and as you know, all organizations live or die based on financing. So take that power that you're going to take out of your pocket and please and purchase it either through InfoWars directly, or if you have to use Amazon, I know that you guys have it listed on Amazon as well.
Absolutely. Listen, God bless you. We're out of time, my friend. Look forward to having you back up soon because the book's excellent. Another great fighter for liberty. Here's a final article, Scientific American. I didn't even get to this. I see articles like this every day. Effective world government will need, again, effective world government will be needed to stave off climate catastrophe. Now, what did they say in secret world government documents that got leaked? They would use the threat of environmental crises, including weather weapons they have, to scare the public into giving up authority to a private megabank. And it's It's all here, Scientific American. They're openly pushing world government. So why does the Southern Poverty Law Center say that it doesn't exist and you're an evil terrorist if you talk about world government?